Hello everyone, this is the Cool Crew here, and I will be giving my serious review of the Grand Tour game. Please note that none of this is about the Grand Tour show, and what I say about the game may or may not trigger you or upset you. With that out of the way, let's get started with the review. The Grand Tour game gives you Season 1 Episode 1 and Season 2 Episode 1 as a complimentary gift. In addition, you also get to play all of Season 3 when the episodes of the show come out. In graphics, it doesn't do anything groundbreaking. YouTube comments kept calling it a PlayStation 2 game. In the end, the game doesn't look bad, but it's a shame that there couldn't be more graphic fidelity. The controls are fairly solid and easy to learn. The handling is a little awkward though. For some reason, it feels like the game has some lag between when you actually want to turn and when the car actually turns. It's a bit difficult when starting off, but it's very easy to get used to. The music is good and is very the Grand Tour-esque. Although there is voice acting, none of it is actually recorded in the studio and is directly ripped from episodes. The Grand Tour game made a great first impression. Throughout this whole episode, I was smiling and enjoying the game. I was amazed that there was finally a good arcade racer. I was surprised at one point where I was able to choose between Clarkson, Hammond, and May before the race started.
Ooh, actual race, let's go.
Wait.
The episode has some very unique challenges, ranging from not going off the track to speed traps. In short, the Grand Tour Game Season 1 Episode 1 was very good and got me excited to play the rest of the game. The next episode was pretty good as well. I kinda found it hilarious when I drove the Rimac off a cliff in one of the levels. Unlike the Grand Tour cast, however, I wasn't really surprised that they kept Hammond's crash in the game. In the end, I was still happy and enjoyed playing the whole episode. In case you didn't know, Season 3 Episode 1 did not come out when the game released. It got released around Thursday at 9 PM due to where I live. I had high hopes thinking that it was going to be just as great as the previous episode. The episode was pretty fun and I was enjoying it just as much as the start. However, they did something that I could not forgive them for.
Hello fellow driving enthusiasts, James here. Owing to the unique way we make video games, we are sadly unable to have the McLaren Senna in this episode for now. Apologies for that. As a sort of consolation prize, we're going to go back and look at Hammond driving the equally fantastic McLaren 720S from Season 2. It's a cracker, apart from the Hammond bit.
They didn't include the McLaren Senna. I was pissed. That was one of the cars I was hoping to drive around the track. Instead, we drove the 720S that Hammond tested out from Season 2.
How lazy can you be?
Moving on, I did enjoy doing burnouts and donuts in the cars. It showed that there was a bit of variety to the challenges, but the fun got swept under the floor again when I had to drive on their homemade track in Detroit. It was an absolute nightmare to drive around it. It could have been because I wasn't too used to the handling, but I could not stop from crashing into almost every single wall. After I finished, I turned off my PS4, feeling betrayed. Now if you're expecting the game to get better from here on out, you're going to be thoroughly disappointed. When loading up the game, I was wondering what they would put in the game from the special. One of the challenges was to pull Hammond's truck out of the water. I never had to tow anything, so with my inexperience, I had no clue what to do when I saw this. At first, I stepped on the gas to get to the green zone. Did nothing. Tried slamming the gas down so it constantly redlined. It didn't work. That's when I realized I tried to slam the gas down to its maximum of revs, then ease on the gas into the green zone. How was anyone supposed to know that? Regardless, I was relieved that that was finally done. Another challenge was very different. Remember how the whole special was supposed to be a trio taking photos? Well, you're able to do that. I laughed when I realized that was something I had to do. When I actually started racing, it felt normal. It was very enjoyable when I had to drive on the bridge and get across safety within a certain time limit to get gold. It put me on edge to get from point A to point B. There were a couple of things I didn't enjoy in the episode. When the trio is searching for a bear to take a picture of, you get to drive around freely to get the checkpoints. When you get to drive the Chevy Silverado, it has absolutely no power on hills. If you go to a complete stop and try to go up a hill, the truck will not move for a whole minute even if you're full throttle. The other challenge I didn't like was when I had to get as far as possible from Hammond's truck with May's Fiat. The challenge itself was easy, however, the camera was inverted, making it hard to go around the track since the mini-map was the only thing to help guide you. In general, this episode was fun, but some of the challenges weren't very fleshed out. The game starts out with the trio having to pull down the head statues with the least amount of revs per minute. However, the game doesn't do that. Instead, you get a generic stopwatch so you can step on the gas as much as you want. Next is test driving the Jaguar Project 8. I was excited because it didn't cut out like they did for the Senna. However, the car was bubble wrapped.
You got on a race car.
Oh, sweet, can you drive the Project 8? 8?
This got me confused. I wonder why the Grand Tour game had such a hard time adding vehicles into the game.
I'm sorry, what?
Then a thought came in my head. They must not have enough time to add vehicles and tracks. It almost seems like they only get a week to start and finish cars and tracks, which make it nearly impossible to have every single thing in the game. Regardless, next part is driving trucks off-road. Now I have no clue how they screwed up off-road here when it was just fine in the special, but driving the trucks off-road is absolutely awful. It was the least enjoyable part in the whole episode to play. I was surprised that when I got to the trio shooting the guns at targets, I was the one shooting them instead of driving the truck. Once it ended, I was relieved that the flop of the episode was finally over. When this episode first came out, the Alpine A110 was not in the game, which I honestly didn't mind. It got added in about the same time the episode 9 came out, but I'll talk about that later. Honestly, this episode didn't really do anything I didn't like. Driving on the lake was very enjoyable as the handling felt much less stiff for some reason. Driving all the Lotus cars during the Jim Clark documentary was very appealing since the race cars turned more delicately than the others. I especially loved the vintage filters they added in while racing. This episode was very boring. That's it. The whole time I was bored out of my mind. From evading drones, going up to 24 curves, which takes forever in the old luxury cars. Even driving the EP9 was boring. The worst part is that the game starts when the episode of the show is already halfway done. The episode starts off promising with you being able to drive all 3 cars for a fast lap time. When it gets to the drifting, it becomes a pain. The vehicles have no power, so after the first drift, it's very difficult to get drifting again. Driving in the BMW and the BMW ripoff was pretty fun. Can't really say much about that. When I got back to the main show, something odd happened. When I was racing Clarkson's Alfa Romeo GTV6, Hammond's Fiat rubber banded really bad. However, when I drove the Fiat, the AI was far behind, which made me a bit confused. When I got to the part where Hammond was making Clarkson Nick Bolognese, the game was telling me that a minigame was coming up. I had absolutely no idea what kind of minigame I would play for making Nick Bolognese. What I wasn't expecting was the minigame that I got. A reused picture-taking minigame. I was annoyed that they couldn't make anything original. At the very least, there shouldn't have been a minigame there. The episode finally ends and my exact words were, Driving in the RVs sucked. I understand that RVs aren't exactly fast, but it just felt tacked on when you had to do a lap in one. The picture-taking minigame happens again, which just makes me even more annoyed. When I got to the part where the trio are driving dune buggies and trophy trucks, the game felt fun again. Driving those around the track was so satisfying, especially when you caught air. Soon it was time to drift insane performance cars around the track. I was very pissed off when I found out that wasn't in the game. Instead, it goes straight to the RV demolition derby, which they even screwed up on that. It never feels satisfying whenever you hit one of the RVs. There isn't any bits of it flying off or even visual damage. Also, the way the game handles crashing into other cars doesn't involve momentum, so if you hit someone, instead of their car going out of control, both cars skid to a halt until you get off the ones in front's rear bumper. I was excited at first, but disappointed in the end. I was very grateful that nothing got cut out in this episode. I was surprised when the Alpine A110 got added into the game, but I wasn't happy when I found out it sucked in game. I also saw many other things get added into the game. An example is being able to drive the variants of the Chevy, Jeep, and Fiat from the Mongolia Special in the split screen mode. This also happened when Twitch Prime were giving away more cars and different skins for already existing cars for the Grand Tour game. In conclusion, the new episode was fun and I was happy Amazon actually looked like they care about the game. Driving the Testarossa and Countach was very fun. I was even surprised when I was able to choose between one or the other for a race. When I got to the hot hatches, I was confused when I found out that the Toyota Yaris wasn't in the game and still isn't to this day. I was able to do a few races, then the game went into way too many picture taking minigames which made the experience even worse. The start was fun, but I wish that the minigames near the end weren't overused and sucked. Like almost all of the episodes, this one starts off very strong. Driving the GT cars was fun. They even added a challenge where you have to win a race in the Bentley with Stalin's head on the hood. When the trio get to cut the track and drink water to see if their lap time improves when they have to use the restroom, there was one challenge that was very difficult. When driving around the track in the Bentley, you had to steer as little as possible so Amir wouldn't go too far to left or right too many times while being under a time limit. When I got to the part where the trio checks up the Martin's back seat, the game told me that a minigame was coming up. I was thinking, oh, it's gonna make me take a picture of Hammond in the back seat. However, I didn't realize that they actually gave me a brand new, original idea for a minigame. But it was even worse than taking pictures. I had to do a puzzle. I'm not even joking. It's a puzzle where you have to rotate tiles so that they all align to form a picture. I don't even know why they thought that was a good idea. I'd rather take a couple of seconds to take a fake picture and waste 2 minutes on some stupid puzzle, and I wish that I would never have to do another one again. Little did I know that was just one of many. After that, I had to race on a horrible track twice, the second one being useless, and I was unable to drag race at the end. This was another disappointing episode to play. This episode was a disaster. First, I was able to drive the modified Lancia Integral, but not the other one. I was able to drive both Porsches, even though the Porsche 917 didn't feel fast at all. Last was the motorized suitcase, laptop, skateboard. Unfortunately, it starts off with another stupid puzzle. I was very angry that Amazon would even think of adding this back in. However, I was excited once again when I found out I could drive the motorized suitcase in the airport. It was fun to drive the first few times, but got real boring really fast. The third time I drove it, I had to go for a lap time, but there was one issue. There was absolutely no music. None at all. It made the lap time very awkward and boring. The last time I drove it, it was near the end where Abby had to race against the random skateboarder. However, in the game, you don't go against anyone. Instead, you go against the clock because they never added the laptop skateboard in the game. I was once again disappointed. This episode starts off horribly with a puzzle. Then the episode is nothing but waypoint races. I was furious when I finished since there was absolutely no variety in the races and the whole episode was a complete failure, making it the worst episode ever. We come to the finale of the season, starting off pretty good, where I was able to drive the Lotus Ford Cortina. Again. I was able to drive May's Ford Cortina, but I wasn't able to drive Jamie's Ford Cortina because they weren't able to add it into the game. However, during the time while I'm writing this review, they somehow added it in without my knowledge of there ever being an update. I was wondering how they were going to add a minigame of Hammond breaking vehicles. Unfortunately, no unique minigame got added for it. I was also able to drive the Ford Cosworth and Ford Mondeo Estate. However, the game ended with 2 picture minigames, making the ending very anticlimactic. Although the episode in general was pretty enjoyable, it fell hard at the end. In conclusion, I feel like the Grand Tour game is an enjoyable game and has a fair price tag of $15. You can find a lot of enjoyment in this game, and it does seem like Amazon started to care about the game near its end. Some of the episodes and the pointless picture taking and puzzle mini games took a huge hit into the game. My final score of the Grand Tour game is a 5 out of 10. It's not terrible, but it isn't great. Until next time, I'll see you all in the next video. Stay cool.